Welcome, Chris. It's really great to have you here. We are with Santi Garcia, a poker journalist from Argentina. He knows everything about all players, but he knows a lot about you. So I bring him here to help me with the English.
Hi, Chris. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Okay, we start the interview. You ready? ¿Querés empezar vos, Santi?
Yes, no problem. Well, Chris, the first question obviously is about the main event. 20 years have passed since 2003. How do you see the tournament 20 years later with your eyes right now?
I mean, it's a completely different game. From everything from the makeup of the players. 20 years ago, the players were probably looked real similar to what I look like now. They were older, middle-aged men. It wasn't many females, wasn't a whole lot of diversity. And when you look at the main event today, it's people from all walks of life and, plenty of women. It's a completely different look and feel to it. And then just the play itself is so different as well. I mean, back then there was really no training or sites to where you could learn how to play the game. You were kind of just on your own. There were two books at the time. One was Doyle's Super System, and the other was Mike Piero's Book of Tells. I think that was the only two books that even existed on poker back then. There might have been a few small ones, but there just wasn't much. So everybody was kind of, doing their own thing. And obviously now we have solvers and, all kinds of stuff to resources to learn how to play. So the average player has gone from very uneducated to educated, and even the bad players know kind of what they're doing.
Okay, great.
Well, I do the last year question.
Yes, of course. Come on.
Last year marked 20 years since your victory in the main event. How do you see that victory with? No, you made that one.
That,
sorry,
yes.
I was focused on the interview.
Oh, can I answer it again?
Yeah. I made the same question that he did. I want to do this question, but it's Santi. Yeah, he made it. You played several key hands, but I'd like to ask you about the pocket 3 call against Dutch Boys. Do you remember that?
20 players left.
How could I not?
Because we all talk about the bluff against some Farha or the Phil Ivey hand, but I think that is the key hand of all the tournament, because if you lose that hand, you're eliminated. So I wanted to ask, what factors led you to call with pocket 3 in a flop 9 high, I think?
Yeah, it was a 9-4 deuce flop. It was the only time I was all in the tournament. It was the only time I was at risk of elimination. And I just had a feeling. So he had been pretty active. I was sitting on his left, and I could get a pretty good gauge of, or had a pretty good idea of when he connected with flops just from playing with him for a long time. He raised, and I flatted with threes pre-flop, and he looked at me. And gave me a look like, I don't know, I just felt like he really didn't want a whole lot of action. And then the flop came out, 9-4 deuce. And, again, the game's different back then. It wasn't...
more like a field game.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a field game. And there wasn't a whole lot of check raising back then. But if you do get check raised, it was very, very polarized. And I didn't know what polarized meant back then, but
yeah,
it was either a bluff or the stone nuts. It was not. I mean, there was really
nothing in the middle.
If he had a hand like tens through aces, I don't think he's ever checking, check raising. I think he wants to get money in the middle right then. The only way he's check raising in what I, when I was thinking the hands he would have, is he has pocket nines, pocket fours, pocket deuces, and that's it. Like, those are the three combinations of hands that he could have that he would check raise with. even aces, he's going to want to start getting money in the middle, or, you know, not let me see a free card if I did have a hand like, I don't know, threes, sevens, eights, whatever. He doesn't want to give me a free turn card. That's just the way everybody thought back then. It was more of a protecting your hand, not giving away free cards to people in position. So when he checked me, I really felt like he had a hand like ace king, ace queen, king queen, something like that. So I bet, and when I bet, what they didn't show on TV is I knocked over all my chips because I was nervous. I knocked over all my chips. It was a very sloppy bet. And I know he liked to read into things, and he picked up my nervousness. So he went for a check raise, and he was really, really nervous when he did it. And I know obviously pocket threes are very susceptible. Not a great hand, but I really just went with my read that, you know, he had high cards. I mean, I really told myself he's got ace king, ace queen. Those are the two most likely hands. You know, one thing different back then versus now is, you know, now you put people on a range of hands. You know, he can have, you know, when he raises in this position and then how he plays, he can have, you know, all this range. Back in 2003, we put you on a specific hand. You had ace king. That's just what you have, or you have ace queen. I get my range was two hands, to the, you know, ace king, ace queen. Obviously he has nines, fours, and deuces, but I didn't give those a ton of credit, just by the way his body language was and just how he wasn't very comfortable. You know, that's one thing I could always tell someone that was, you know, comfortable versus uncomfortable. And I gave off uncomfortability, and I know that he was giving off uncomfortability. So I took away the nine, fours, and deuces, and I just went with my read. I said he's got ace king here. I just want low cards to come. I think if low cards come, I win. And you can actually already see, you know, when I call, I say, all right, low cards dealer, because I know, you know, he's probably got high cards. So, yeah, that was my read, and I went with it.
Oh, excellent. I think that was your first hero call and one of the best you ever made.
Yeah. Did you?
Given the situation, yeah, it was by far I still think it's the biggest call I've ever made as far as situation. And I mean, obviously, you know, how it changed my life. I didn't realize that if I knew the ramifications it would have on my life in the future, I would have folded in a second. Like, I never would have made that call. But yeah, I'll never be able to make a call bigger than that ever again.
Chris, when we see the videos, it was your first live tournament. So how did you prepare yourself to? I mean, you catch a bluff, you read someone else. I mean, you were I don't know how to say it, but you were like it's not a newbie the world, but you were the first tournament you play, and you beat all the pros. I mean, did you prepare yourself something?
I felt like I was pretty good at reading people and reading situations and reading patterns. And so I spent a lot of time the first 3-4 days, because, you know, during the main event, the blinds start really small and they last for 2 hours. While today that doesn't seem like too much, because that's kind of standard. Back then it was so random. We only started with 10,000 in chips, but that seemed like an absolute fortune back then. I mean, I was used to playing online where you got 20 bigs pretty much from the get-go, and it was fast. You know, you got 10-minute levels, maybe 15. So having 2-hour levels really gave me a lot of time to be patient, and I made a decision to take that time to be patient and study my players as best as I possibly could. I was super nervous, so I was able to be locked on the entire time. And I just made a game up from basically day one of every time someone was in a hand, I was always trying to put them on a hand. It wasn't even a range. It was just a specific hand. And whenever I got to see the cards, see how close I was. and when I was wrong, tried to play back through my head what I missed. And that's what I did for like 4 days. And that's where, actually I got stuck in a hand with Puerto Brenes on day 3 or 4, where he did something that I watched, and he was bluffing. He had like 5 high, and I played with him the day before, and he did something, and I noticed it. And this time he did the exact same thing, and he trapped me with aces.
Yeah, day 4 was that.
Yeah, he knew he trapped me. He was what, the one thing, he was a step ahead of me, I'll be honest, in the fact that he knew, or it seemed like he knew, to pay attention to the people that were paying attention. I didn't know this at the time. I wasn't looking for, when you play poker, half the tables on their iPhone. Well, we didn't have iPads and phones back then. Cell phones were brand new. They didn't have all the apps and everything else. People weren't on their phones back then. So, but you could tell people who were watching TV or looking at the waitress or just checked out after they folded their cards versus the ones that were actually actively paying attention to the game. So I wasn't looking for that. And you could tell he was actually looking for that as well. He was looking to see who was paying attention, who he could set up, and he knew he set me up. And hats off to him. He put his money in after the turn in a really bad spot, but he did get me in a bad spot, I will say. I didn't have him covered 3-1, but it was still a bit of a big hit. Because again, I was just going with my read, and my read from the day before, he was bluffing when he did this certain thing, and he wasn't bluffing.
Excellent. Well, I advise to all the ones who want to know more about your tournament to read this book. I enjoy it a lot. It's a little bit retro.
Yeah, it's definitely retro. I mean, I don't need.
It's a legendary book.
But I like it. Good job.
I need to go back and read it and see what my thought process was 20 years ago, because I would probably cringe at, I think I wrote them like 04, 05, and my poker knowledge back then was so remedial. I'm sure I would probably cringe at the thought of trying to read my hand analysis from some of those hands back in the day.
You did good.
Chris, what advice would you give to someone playing their first main this year?
Well, the main's different now. Again, back then it was, what people don't realize, back then check raising was very, very uncommon. Check raising wasn't allowed in some poker rooms where I played. You couldn't check raise; it was illegal.
There was a sign.
Yeah, it was a
For
sign.
real?
Checking or raising.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was on the wall. Checking and raising is not allowed or not accepted. So people generally bet their hands. It was pretty straightforward. I played in position, and when it checked to me, I bet. And when people bet, if I didn't have it, I folded. And that was pretty much my strategy for like 2 days. Now, obviously, it's much, much different. People are much more experienced. So if you're playing your first main event, one, realize that you get 2 hours of play. You get tons of chips. There's no reason to do anything stupid. If you're going to err on the side of anything, err on the side of caution for the first 2 days. You can't win the tournament in the first 2 days. You can only lose it. So if you're in a tough spot, you don't know what to do, just fold. If you get 3-bet, 4-bet, whatever, and you're not sure, just fold. It's much easier just to fold and move on to the next hand. You'll find some people, if you start doing that, some people might start to try to pick on you and start 3-betting and 4-betting you light. Don't let it get to you. You got plenty of time. Those things will work themselves out. You'll either move tables or the day will end on day 1. Just play tight, be conservative, study your opponents. If you feel like someone's taking advantage of you, I mean, we all have an ego. Find a good hand and go back at it. But at the end of the day, it's really about knowing your game style. Don't try to change how you play because it's the main event. Just play your normal game. After 30 minutes, you're going to fall into your normal game anyways. but take the time when you're folding a whole lot, because the blinds are so spread out, to study your players and study, find out who's good, who's bad, and the bad players, try to target those players. That's what I did. I mean, back then we basically had labels on us, so I could identify the bad players. It was anybody wearing a online patch. Online players back then were considered second-class citizens. We were playing checkers, and poker players were playing chess. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. Poker is a face-to-face game, and it's not meant to be played online. And if you play online, you're not really playing poker. You're just playing cards. So anybody that was wearing a online patch was a fish. And I had a couple people wearing online patches, online shirts at my table, and I would target those players because those were the same as me. Those are the same guys as me. They were the ones that won their seats online, or they played online poker, and I can deal with online poker players. And it's funny how, obviously times have evolved when you look at how online poker players are viewed today versus, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'm still a fish though, and I use the online patch.
You're a patch fish. So honestly now, when we looked at patches back then, honestly now, I generally look for the older players. Older players generally are the ones that you want to target at the table. The young guys, in a $10,000 buy-in, it's hard to find like a really young guy that's bad, because generally if they have $10,000 at a young age to put up, they're either good at poker or they've got a backer they got money or they got a backer. Obviously you'll run across someone that's a trust fund kid that just wants to play, and they're terrible, but for the most part, if they're young, $10,000 is a lot of money for a young person. So they're either good enough to have a backer, or they're good enough to win enough to get into a 10K main event. So if I was looking for targets at a table, I would be looking at older gentlemen. And the good thing is that at a poker table, like when the hands aren't being dealt, you can find out all kinds of information. So ask, just, hey, what do you do? Where you from? What do you do? And it's amazing how much information people give you. It's like, hey, I'm from Boise, and I run a business, and this is my bucket list to come out and play the main event. Okay, that's my guy. That's my target.
You write it down. You're like with a notepad. Like
it is amazing how much information people give you without even knowing it. Just being friendly. Now, when you're playing in a hand, people aren't going to give you anything. They're going to try to conceal everything. But when the cards aren't being dealt, usually for the main event, I show up on time. And when I show up, I meet my table mates. It doesn't work as well for me now because people know who I am, but I would meet my table mates the first day and ask them questions. It worked for about 5 months for me because the TV, it didn't air on TV for like 5 or 6 months. So, no one knew who I was for about 5 months of playing poker. But after that, kind of, the cat was out of the bag for me. But even still, I still show up, and people will just, overshare everything about their life when you ask a few questions if you're nice to them. Actually, funny story, I used to teach a WPT boot camp, and one of the things I did was teach this strategy of showing up and talking to your opponents to find out their motivations. Are they a wealthy businessman? Are they a grinder? Do they play 1-2? They play tournaments? Like, what is why are they here? And so I gave this speech in a class, and then I went to go play a tournament right after. And so I'm sitting at the table talking to this young gentleman to my left. I generally always talk to the people who have position on me first. And this old lady came up. She was in my seminar. She came up behind me and she goes, "Young man, do not listen to anything this guy says. He is not your friend. He just wants to get information. He is being very rude to you. Do not talk to him." And I just turned around, looked at the lady, and laughed. I'm like, okay, yep, she was in my seminar, and she just outed me to this guy. So, I haven't taught that method in a long time, but people still, they still don't do it very much. You'll see some of the good players will sit down. Daniel Negron is really good at it, extracting information from players. So it's funny, like, people always ask, why are Daniel and other pros talking to people during hands, asking questions. A lot of it is because we've got a baseline of how you talk and what your cadence are and how you respond to questions from before the tournament started, when you were not nervous, when you were perfectly fine. And when you're nervous, it's really hard to answer questions. So if you're going to engage with me in a conversation and I put you in, you're bluffing, even 30 seconds later, it's really going to be hard for you to put coherent thoughts together and not stumble and ramble through. You'll trip yourself up when you get asked tough questions that are not relative to the hand, and you'll see people will just be like stumbling as they're answering them. So there's many different reasons why, but that's one of the main reasons why you see a lot of old time pros talking to people during hands.
Okay, next time I won't answer your question.
Thanks for the tips, Chris. I wanted to ask you about Latin America. You play in Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay. Any memories from those tournaments? Do you think that players in Latin America are like more passionate, playing more louder?
Well, of course. I mean, hell, anybody that's been to a Latin American tournament knows that there's a lot of country pride. There's a lot of pride amongst peers. People are much more vocal. I always tell people it's much more like a party than a poker tournament when you come down to Latin America. It's a very fun atmosphere. Tons of memories down there. My first being, I came down to the first LAPT down in Brazil. It was like 2006, 2007 time frame. And it was probably the worst poker I've ever seen in my entire life. Every single raise was 11x pre-flop. It was the most incredible.
And 4 colors.
Multi-way pots.
Yeah, minimum 4 colors. And I'm asking a guy down there, like, why is everybody making it 11x, 15x? So that's the only way you can get people to fold pre-flop. People will call 30x raises with a pocket pair of deuces down there back in that time. Yeah. And yeah, you could never see a flop without multi-way action back then. It was really crazy, insane poker. That was my first indoctrination into Latin American poker. And that obviously, as we all know, that's changed a lot over the years. The internet is kind of, and the resources have leveled the playing field to where, I mean, now when you go down, I mean, the playing field's pretty leveled. It's not, you don't see the, for years you would see the discrepancies between, Eastern Europeans being crazy and Latin Americans, being way too active. But the internet's kind of leveled all that stuff out. People, they aren't really country specific players anymore, I don't think. It feels like everybody that plays online is kind of, meshed together. They've all learned together through the years. So you don't have these anomalies. They used to go and travel to different parts of the world and you'd be like, what in the world is this? So yeah, I'm going to go to Uruguay, I think in July. I like to go down to Latin America because it is, again, it's more like a party. Everybody's just having fun. And that's, when I'm playing poker, I like to enjoy myself. Going and playing, the World Series of Poker main event or going and playing the Tritons. Generally, no one really talks in those events very much. Or, it's people that either know each other, they're in a little clique, or there's just not a whole lot of social banter going on amongst just random people. And to me, it gets a little boring and people are really focused. I mean, they're all trying to play, GTO. Now this is more Triton than it is like, main event. Main event, there's still a bunch of, everybody's there for the festivities and stuff, but I'll say a normal 10K that's not the main event. Yeah. People are there trying to play optimally and really thinking about ranges and spots and, how to be either balanced or unbalanced. And it's crazy. So it's not the most enjoyable, to be honest. So I would much prefer a LAPT or a smaller buy-in. Just because you have people there that are there for, a break from their normal everyday life and they're taking a shot.
Great. Chris, on 2019, you entered the Hall of Fame. What did that mean to you?
Well,
I will do that question. I will do the other ones after that.
I think I answer this question different than almost every single person alive.
Okay.
In the fact that I really don't care. Like, there is. I mean, can you tell me where the Hall of Fame is? Like, is there anything that like signifies? I couldn't tell you who's in the Hall of Fame outside of people obviously that I would know, like Doyle and Daniel and Ivy. Like, but I can't tell you who's in the Hall of Fame. I don't even know.
But do you vote each year, or you don't
I
care?
I do vote each year.
Okay.
They send me an email, and I respond to the email. That's my
Only interaction.
That's my entire engagement.
But you don't say I don't care, right? You vote.
No, I usually I waste my votes. I usually vote for Isai for the most part. He's always on the ballot. I usually vote for him, and he never wins. So
Yes.
And he probably never will win, but whatever. So
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Do you think the system needs to be fixed? Because Daniel Negreanu said like 2 years industry people and all the years one player. Do you think that's a good idea? To get aside, to get Matt Savage?
Well, the thing is so it probably needs to be 2 players. 1 player in this whole world of poker is really tough. And the other thing that's really bad is, I mean, I'm pretty sure predominantly most of the players that are in Hall of Fame members are American. I don't know how many are not. So, it's very hard for...
Only one, Devilfish.
All right, well, Devilfish, who's not alive, he can't vote.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for Europeans, for Latin Americans, for Asians to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame because we're the ones that vote for it. And we're going to vote for people that we're more familiar with and that we kind of know. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely broken. I think it needs to be more than one person. I don't think that we need to be the ones voting for it because at the end of the day, we're going to be skewed towards, if you're going to give me, I don't follow poker much, but like, Fedor Holtz or whatever versus Mike Manisal. I mean, I think everybody that's in the voting pool that's currently is going to vote for Manisal. And it probably needs to be Holtz. I mean, but someone like Holtz may never get in because he's European, and that's just the sad truth. Yeah. It's very rare. So, and I think that's the biggest thing. So when people are like, there's no Europeans in the Hall of Fame. Well, the reason is because most of the voters are older American people that have already been inducted, and we just know we're more familiar with the Americans. So, but again, that's I've never been a big like idealist when it comes to popularity contests. Like I could care less. The Hall of Fame to me just seems like a popularity contest. Like I could really care less. So
yeah,
Okay.
that's clear. But do you realize how important were your 2003 WSOP main event for all the poker world? I mean, or you just I mean,
or am I living under a rock?
I mean,
No.
I mean, we all, you are really important for all the poker
No,
world. So,
trust
I mean,
me. Listen, I'm not stupid. I understand what I did for the game. I understand the impact I had on the game. I also understand that there were a lot of perfect storm situations that went into that enabled me to be the catalyst for the poker boom. Everything from an NHL lockout going on, they had to put something on ESPN, to the first time they had shown the whole cards for 7 episodes versus 1. And then an amateur that, won it that everybody can relate to. I mean, there was an amateur that won it the year before, but he was a guy from MIT that no one could relate to. I mean, it just had to be the perfect storm. So, I mean, of course, I understand the impact and the, everything it did. I'll say now, 20 years later, the people getting into the game aren't from my generation. They're not I'm not getting people into the game anymore. It's people from YouTube. It's these guys that are streaming, and they're getting in the younger generation. I mean, anybody that's probably 30 plus is probably, someone I got into the game. Anybody younger than 30, they it's probably like
Bloggers.
What's that?
bloggers.
bloggers.
Brad
exactly.
Owen and
Bloggers,
Amy
yeah.
Wolfgang.
Yep. You got Brad Owen and Rampage and all these guys. They're
Mhm.
they're getting in the newer generation of players,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
You want to do
that's
the
the way
next
it's supposed
question?
to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, I can't make your game forever. Damn it, you got to do some of the work yourself. So all these younger guys are starting to do the work, which is good.
Nice.
Hey, Chris, can you tell us about the MoneyMaker Poker Tour? How the idea came out, and what you enjoy about playing? Because I think you play all the tournaments, no? If you can, you enjoy it.
I generally play the main events, and so the MoneyMaker Tour was a creation after throughout the years, the last couple of years, you've seen different tournaments will not honor guarantees. You'll see rake is just astronomically high at some venues, at some tournaments. And I just felt like there were a lot of tournament series out there that weren't really designed with the players in mind. It was really about making money and, watching the bottom line. The tournaments were put on, solely as a money-making, project and not someone to help grow the game. So I met, Tony Burns many years ago. We started talking about our vision and what we wanted to do, and we decided to, team up and create the MoneyMaker Tour. And the tour, we always pay out all of our guarantees, and we try to do reasonable rake. So we're not charging an arm and a leg, more than, we're charging less than everybody else or in line with everybody else. We're not on the upper end. There's a couple tours that are on the upper end that are really expensive, rake wise. And then we want to give players a lot of play for the money that they put in. A lot of times you'll play a $400 event at a certain tour and the blinds just escalate so fast. You don't really get any play for that. We feel like, if you're coming out to play an event, you should, be able to play in the event and really enjoy yourself. It's more, I've always felt like those smaller buy-ins are where people learn. And if you're forced into playing turbo tournaments all the time, and then all of a sudden when you play a 10K, you get to play really slow, you're not really prepared for that. And finally, the reason I like it is, again, like I've said, is I like having fun at a poker table. So our tours are a lot more fun. They're a lot more carefree. So, you add all those together, and that's the reason I kind of created the tour. That's why I go play them.
Chris, can you tell us which one are the next stops? I hope this year I can play it.
We've got two confirmed. We've got Daytona is coming up next month in April, and then we got West Palm Beach coming up in May. We should be announcing we've got about 5 more stops coming up here, maybe even more than that for the rest of the year. But the ink's not dry on them yet, so I can't announce them. But we're real close to announcing several stops throughout the year and some much different locations. We've been sort of centrally located in Florida. Florida's a great place to play poker. Tony's from there. We've got great partners down there. We're very happy with being in that area, but we also want to expand the tour as well. We're always going to have a home base in Florida. It's going to be where we have predominantly most of our tournaments, but we are going to expand, and I think people will be happy with where we're going to expand out to.
Yeah.
International, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say that. We say hi to Tony. Tony's a great guy.
We definitely have some international things lined up. So hopefully we'll get.
He cannot say. In
the
world. Let's put it this way: we're moving towards Latin America. So we're getting close.
Yeah. Chris, on May 2023, we did that already. Last year you achieved, ¿está bien dicho, sí? Achieved. Yeah, your second best result by placing on the Triton. Sorry, I'm pretty nervous right now. You earned like 2 million. How was your experience playing to the best player of the world? I mean, you're still making it. I mean, I think there is the best player right now. They all play on Triton, and you make it.
I agree. Yeah, I mean the Triton's definitely the best players in the world. They generally play very one way. it's weird. I've only been to one Triton. I'm going to another one in 2 months. I'm going to there's one that's going to come up in May. I'll be going to that one. But I've only been to one, and from my experience, they all play very, very standard. I mean, the ranges are pretty static. They don't really get out of line too damn much. They'll randomize and they'll do some stuff, but they definitely aren't playing exploitable. So when someone like me comes in, and I mean, I think all of our ACR Team Pros have done very well at Tritons because every one of them play a different style. We're not playing the same game.
GTO robot.
Yeah, we're not playing the GTO, and people aren't really adapting much to us because we're one person in the field versus everybody else in the field that's playing, pretty much GTO. I think part of that is, if I teach you how to play a perfect GTO style and you go play that in a MoneyMaker Tour event, you're going to get destroyed. I mean, so perfect GTO is, you get ace 5, you're pretty much just getting it in at any stack depth. Like if you're getting 4-bet, you're just jamming, ace 5 all the time. And they do that at the Triton. Where if you do that at the MoneyMaker Tour, you're going to run kings and aces almost all
Rebuy.
There is no chance that someone is 4-betting you light in a MoneyMaker Tour event, or very, very, very slim chance. Where at Triton, it's definitely a possibility. So some of the tactics that you use at the higher stake games don't work at the lower buy-ins, and vice versa. So when you get players that come in that don't play by the same rule book, it throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into the system. And these players are amazing and they can adapt really, really well, but they're not going to change their entire game because one person came to the table and is kind of messing up the flow. And honestly, at the end of the day too, is these Triton events, they fly. They're fast. They're very blinds move up every 30 minutes. It's inducive to the amateur player. It's inducive to, letting, not giving the pros all the advantages in the world. They make them go pretty fast, and that gives the businessmen a chance to, and recreational players that are playing in the events, a chance to win some of these or get deep in these, because it turns more into a flipping and run good contest, and I'm really good at flipping, so it's a pretty good skill set to have in poker.
Nice. Do you want to do the next question, Santi?
Yes, Chris, what do you enjoy more about playing live? That's my first part. And the second one is, you enjoy more playing the high stakes in Triton or like a small game in Florida?
Definitely a small game in Florida. I mean, it's more about the entertainment factor. I mean, I've been invited to all the Tritons. I've just not gone to them. It's not my cup of tea. I'm going to the next one. I do know that the best players are there, and I think if you want to be at that level, you need to go play them. You need to have that experience. So I'm going to go out and play a few, but I won't be playing all of them. I mean, I'll probably play one Triton event a year. And one, it's a lot of money. I mean, those are expensive buy-ins, and two, I mean, it's a week, 2 weeks of a grind. I don't generally play that long. When I go out for the World Series main event, I play the main event only. I don't play any of the other. I don't play the whole summer. Never have. I only play, usually 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3 tournaments a year.
Yeah.
So when people are like, how many bracelets do you have? Well, I have 1. I've played as many tournaments as most people play the entire, I think Phil Hellmuth will play more tournaments this summer than a World Series main event or World Series events than I've played in my entire life.
That's way too much, right? He's a machine.
It's been 20 years, so I played 20. Actually, I didn't even play there in the COVID years, so I probably played 18 main events or so, and then probably side events. I probably was on average 3 a year, so 18 times 3. So I'm probably still in the double digits as far as like WSOP events played.
But you think you're going to play the main event, all the editions, if you can? Like you're the only tournament of the year that you're going to play is the main event.
Well, no, I'm going to play the MoneyMaker main events. I'll play, ACR's events, so like I'm going to Cage next month. But as far as like, WSOP events, yeah, I'll play the main event. I won't play the European main event or I'm not going to travel internationally to play the main event, but I'll play
the classic.
Yeah, I'll play the classic one. I'll play that every year. Again, I've missed it maybe 2 years. I just missed it 1 year for the COVID. When they, I think they had like 4 main events during COVID year, but
like a hybrid edition.
It was really weird. I don't even remember how we did it back then, but that's the only time I've missed it.
Chris, that's the next question. Until what age do you imagine yourself playing poker? You're young, still young.
Yeah, I'm 48 now. I imagine, I'll be like Doyle. I'm sure I'll play till, I die. I mean, I enjoy the game. And unlike a lot of other players, I'm under the amazing opportunity to be able to play when I want. I don't have to pay to play, to provide for my family and to pay to play nonstop. I don't have a backer. I'm completely independent when I play, so I don't answer to anybody. I don't have anything looming over me. So it makes the game obviously very easy and makes the game enjoyable. So I see no reason why I wouldn't play until I can't play anymore, because again, I do enjoy the game. And it's something, I'm good at it, but I also enjoy it. So I don't think that I'll ever not play.
I was speaking with Santi that I played with you on Uruguay, and you enjoyed the game. I mean, you were always happy, making jokes. I mean, you play 100 tournament, 10K, and you're the same. I mean, you enjoy the game, and that's it. It's all about that. I mean,
I play them both the same. I don't play them both the same way, but yeah, personality-wise, yeah. I mean, now obviously I might cut up more in the $100, do some stupider things.
But you enjoy the same.
Yeah, I enjoy it the same way. I'm there to have fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm generally not going to be there. I've played some tournaments where I didn't have fun, and that's
you love the game for sure.
Yeah, I do. And you'll see there's a lot of people that love the game. You'll see someone I think Ben Lee or whatever, he won like several $1 million and he was playing a $500 buy-in. I mean, like there's a ton of players that will go and play, all levels of buy-ins for different reasons, and just because they love playing the game.
Great, Chris. And we're in the last questions for now. And can you tell us about the ACR, like your role as an ambassador in that site?
Well, it's pretty similar to what I did with Poker Stars. The big difference is I'm a little bit more active with ACR. I get to, speak a little bit more in meetings and have a little bit more say, not a whole lot of say, but a little bit more say as far as, what we implement on the site, how the site does things. They'll at least listen to me and say that's a good boy, whatever. They'll give me a little pat on the head or something. Where over the years, I had that at Poker Stars back in the day, but over the years, Poker Stars got to be such a big company that like I didn't even know who the higher ups were. I was dealing with a person that was my boss, and they, I had no pull, no say, no anything within the company. Where today I can pick up the phone right now and call the CEO of ACR and talk to him on the phone. And that's the kind of company I prefer to work with, is when I can call the owner and talk to him. I don't like working with a company where, I'm like 15 rungs down the ladder. I like to have more influence, and that's one of the big reasons I left to go to ACR, is I feel like I can make a difference.
That's great.
That's a good family.
One more, Facu, if you let me. One more question.
I have one more, so after you.
Okay. My last one. Last one. What is the best things that poker gave you in your life?
Best thing. Hey, honey, are you hearing this? Okay. Best thing that poker gave me in my life is my wife.
We're recording.
And now the real one.
No, that is a real one, honey. I want bonus points for that, by the way. And obviously, it gave me freedom. It gives me the ability to be with my family when I want to be with my family for the most part. I mean, I have a schedule that I kind of have to maintain between the MoneyMaker Tour and ACR stops and the main event. I mean, it's not like I'm totally free, but I'm flexible. I can, do things. And if, we decide we want to take off for a week, I can just take off for a week. If I want to do nothing, I can do nothing. So the freedom is the biggest thing that it provides. And then I get to be my own boss, which is obviously incredible. And then, financial freedom as well. I mean, it's nice not having to worry about, all this inflation and everything that's going on in the world, and, trying to provide for your family and your kids. And, when you don't have that thing, it makes life a lot easier, a lot more enjoyable. I'll just be honest.
Great, Chris. I have one more, and this is the last one. So, last year, we shared a dinner break, and you told me you were studying more the game, and you found motivation on that way. I mean, to feel like you understand what's happening on the table and being better each time.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't study the game for a long time, and I don't study the game like a lot of players that study it just nonstop. I mean, I'll go through phases where I'll study for a while, and then I'll stop, and then I'll start again. I always want to be able to. I usually start studying when I don't understand something, or when I see things that aren't making sense. Why in the world would someone be 4 betting, 5 betting, using the sizing? Poker's a very complicated game, but it's also a very easy game. You can really make it a lot more complicated than it is. I'm still more of a field player. I still do things that look either really like a genius move or really like an idiotic move. I mean, I'm never going to be just a GTO sim guy. I'm always going to be more of a feel player. It's just always what I'm going to be. But I do want to know what these sim guys, GTO guys, are kind of doing. I don't want to be in their world, but I also want to know, hey, ace 5 is a 5 bet jam, or this is the range that all of these guys are kind of open with. And I want to have an idea of what balanced or GTO looks like. Even though I'm never going to really play it, I want to know at least what they're doing when I do go play a Triton, or when I do play against someone playing the main event. And even the guys that are playing quote unquote GTO, when they play the main event, they don't play that way. They really deviate. I think the main event is probably the biggest tournament in the world where people deviate from their normal playing style. Most likely correctly, is the top tier players. I mean, the top tier players deviate a lot from what they would do at Triton to play in the main event of the World Series of Poker. And really, you have to, or you would just be punting money a lot of times. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I start studying when I feel like I'm missing something, or I'm being outplayed. And it's happened a few times in my career, and I went and studied, and I don't feel that way anymore. Every time I sit down at the table, I feel like I always feel like I'm the best player at the table, whether I'm, that's just my self-confidence or whatnot, but I always feel like I'm capable of playing with anybody. And people have asked me, you ever get afraid at the table? I'm like, I mean, what's to be afraid of? You're playing with chips. I mean,
yeah, it's just a game.
it's a game. It's I treat the game kind of like Monopoly. Once I decide to buy in, I'm not invested in the money. I'm not invested in what's going, the actual material part of the game. So it's hard to be intimidated when you're not invested in that part of it. I mean, we're just playing a game of Monopoly, Risk, or whatever, whatever board game you want to call it. Because once you've made the decision to buy in, that money's gone in my mind. Like, when I play the main event, the World Series of Poker, or I play a cash game, whatever money I put on the table is gone.
It's not yours anymore.
It's part of the game. They're betting units for the game. Once we're done, it turns back into money, and I can actually look at it as money. But once I make the decision to buy into a tournament, whether it be a $400 tournament or a $10,000 tournament, that money is not mine anymore. So I don't really worry about that money anymore. I don't look really at the prize pools. I don't look at how much money I can win, or that's one thing. One thing that I started studying is because I would never look at pay jumps. I would never do ICM at all. Like, I would just be like, no, I'm going for the win. I don't care about ICM at all. I'm ICM's for poors.
Not to say.
But honestly, ICM isn't for poor people. ICM is smart poker. You have to. It is definitely a decision. One, you need to know ICM for how other people are playing, so you can adapt your game. Two, you need to understand the concepts of laddering up and how significant those different pay jumps are. So that's one. That was one of the things where I didn't know ICM at all, and so I had to go study it because I realized that I was missing something there. So that's one of the aha moments where I started studying more. The good thing is for me is I don't really get into the ICM situation much because I don't make it deep, so I don't have to worry about it. So if you don't make it deep, you don't have ICM problems. So it's easy to not have to worry about studying it too much. But anyways, no. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll wrap it up with that.
Yeah, Chris, and this is the really the last one. So I will see you on the Venom.
It's that last one. It's always one more.
Yeah. No. Well, we say 1 hour, so we respect that. I see you on the Venom, right? We are going to play the 12.5 million Venom, the great edition.
I'll probably play more bullets than I need to play. Hopefully I can squeeze by with one bullet. But yeah, I'll be there day 1A. I plan on playing all the flights. It's the best tournament of the year. Every time we have it, like 4 times a year. It's one of the events I don't miss. My family knows when it's Venom on Thursday or Sunday that you're not going to see me that day. I'm going to be sitting right here in this office. I'm actually going to try and stream it this year. I think I'm going to try and turn on the stream back on and do a little bit of streaming. I don't stream a whole lot, but when it comes to the Venom and some of the bigger buy-ins and stuff, I'll probably start streaming. I think we're going to do some bigger cash games coming up on ACR, so I'll probably stream those. And
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, we'll get back into it a little bit.
Okay, see you the day 1. I will play it. I want to say thanks, Chris, for being a great guy and for this time you share with us.
And thank you for introducing us all the big game of poker. Thank you from all the amateur players.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in Uruguay or somewhere else down the road. I'm sure I'll see you out at the main event this year here in 2-3 months. So
yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to Vegas. I'm not sure about the cash, but MoneyMaker Tour is on my agenda. So thank you.
Hopefully we'll have an event in Vegas during the summer.
Okay.
Hopefully.
See you there.
Close.
Thank you, Chris.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care.